At the time of me recording this video, it should be about June 19th, 2023, which is Juneteenth. Hi, I'm Bunner. I'm a small black artist, and I enjoy object shows, and I even draw fan art sometimes. I've been in the object show community for almost 3 years as of recording this video, so I'm not exactly a veteran to the community. I wanted to give a small introduction and mention Juneteenth because this video is going to be about a brief history on what Juneteenth is about, and also how celebrating black holidays can give more of an insight to how to stop anti-blackness and racism in small communities like ours. There's been slight issues with it recently, with members seeming to be okay with things like that, or not wanting to speak up about it due to the little attention it gets. And I think that discussing something like that and bringing attention to it on a major day that helps uplift black people will bring a small light onto it. Every bit of hate speech is always a step backwards, and there's going to be an uncomfortable conversation with that, but every uncomfortable conversation is about 5 steps forward. So I'm going to be talking about the importance of speaking up on things like this. And instead of waiting for it to die down and waiting for it to happen again and for people to not care anymore, I decided today is a good day to draw attention to it. Not only would this be a good time to show the community a little bit of history, a little bit of black history, of course, but also maybe it'll reach a community outside of the object show community, and others will realize how harmful that colorism and racism is in spaces that are meant to be inclusive for all, that should be safe for everybody no matter their background, and how to change it in a meaningful way. Before I start, I wanted to mention and thank a couple of people. I wanted to bring up Bribey, Jean, and Gio, a couple of other members of our community who decided to speak up against a colorism issue that happened about a year ago in the object show community. These issues definitely wouldn't have been brought to light and possible without them speaking up about any of the originating issues, and so much has definitely changed because of it, and since then, there's been minimal instances of racism in passing in the object show community. However, last year is what finally brought it to a major light and made it clear that a change was needed. First, before I start getting into that, I'm going to give a quick history on Juneteenth, just to make sure that everybody knows where I'm coming from and that this plays a definitely important part in why I wanted to have this discussion and make sure I brought attention to it on a black holiday. Juneteenth is a celebrated holiday that commemorates the day in which enslaved people in Texas Galveston on June 19, 1865, received the news that they were free, which marked the end of slavery in the United States after the Civil War. Even though Juneteenth has been long celebrated and acknowledged across the world, it didn't become an officially recognized holiday until June 17, 2021, making it the newest federal holiday at the current moment. Moments like these and days that celebrate black history and figures are very important due to the discrimination, hatred, and racism that tend to be shown towards people of color, or in the case of this discussion, black people. Although alongside Juneteenth, there are multiple other holidays, general ones like Black History Month in February, Emancipation Day, or Kwanzaa, or days celebrating figures like MLK Day, Rosa Parks Day, or Harriet Tubman Day. There's even online celebrations dedicated to this, like Blacktober for black artists on online spaces like Instagram, Tumblr, or Twitter. These events, holidays, and many more are for us to reflect on our past history, remember the black figures in our lives who fought for us and our rights, and to empower the strides made by black people over time and in history. So today is Juneteenth, which is one of those days where we're able to be loud and proud about our history and ancestors. Though now that I've explained all of this, your first thought might be, what does this have to do with the object show community? Or how come I personally need to know about this? Or my most anticipated question, how is this connected? Before I go into this next section, I want to preface this with the idea that every instance of past events that I'm going to talk about will either be briefly in passing or in minor depth at most. I don't have any intent of making this video an expose of any sort or trying to call anybody out, though I will mention a couple names. I'm using these, rather, as an example of problems that are definitely relevant in our community, why these events have caused harm, and how we can definitely do better in the future. In every community space that you go, there will always be a small possibility or chance that discrimination will be present. Whether it's a huge issue that's blatantly seen by everyone, or something that's sort of hidden in plain sight, or not seen until someone speaks out and notices. Within the object show community, this doesn't really tend to be too much of an issue. When you think of object shows, your first thought isn't ever going to be a community of hate or malice, and rather the object show community is a history of people who are good examples of the community and accept no less than well behavior and fellowship from others. With that being said, just like in every other community, there are also different type of figureheads or people who have more of an impact in a fan base. Something like in the object show community, we have different creators who make shows or help put different things like animation or voice acting or writing into the different characters and creations that we all love and know. People like them have a bigger impact on the community, as well as the other side of fan bases like writers and fan artists and people who just like to talk and discuss and bring everybody together. But when you have a community of people that look up to you, that also comes with the sides of responsibility and accountability. This is going to bring me into my first small minor talking point, which brings up that around August 2022 of last year, there was a small incident that was brought up around the object show community meetup that happened around summer that year. The incident came out to the public last year around August 2022 when it had been mentioned by somebody on Twitter that Lauren had mistaken one object show creator for another based solely on the color of their skin. The issue arose when it was mentioned that Lauren had previous issues with one of the two people that he had mistaken for each other, Gene, and having mistaken him for another person, Geo, because they were both black. This upset a lot of people, though when Lauren first made his apology, the initial reaction was forgiveness from most people, though the people that tended to be forgiving him were people who were either his friends or people who were not black in the community. When it was talked about by black object show creators and people who were upset and affected by the situation, they were mostly talked down to and told that it wasn't too big of a deal, and not much was done about it until other members of the community who were not black spoke up, and suddenly everybody seemed to understand. By the time this had gotten around, it ended with a couple of Inanimate Insanity members, like Taylor, Lauren, Ame, etc., being kicked off of the Inanimate Insanity team. There were non-black object show members being praised for speaking up during the situation, while black members of the community who had spoken up during the situation had been ridiculed and silenced for the most part. Though things had been settled at the time, there was a small amount of backlash that came back at the black object show members of the community. There were voices who weren't listened to or defended until non-black members spoke up. There were people that were calling for creators like Taylor to be brought back onto the Inanimate Insanity team, and the situation was brushed off as drama and people saying that other members that were upset were overreacting. There were also a couple incidents of object show creators promoting themselves to try and drive eyes off of the issue at hand instead of supporting and uplifting black voices. Though it wasn't brought up again, around March 25th, Taylor, one of the old Animation Epic members, made a video and mentioning his side of the story of what happened around August 22 of last year. The video was mostly tone deaf and had shown that Taylor didn't really learn much from whatever had happened about half a year ago. Though there were people that criticized him for coming back and trying to make things about himself, there were also people in the comments of his YouTube video that were praising him for being so brave of speaking up, and also saying that the people who were criticizing him were hateful, bullying, and overreacting, though most of the people that were upset at the situation were POC and black members of the community, though mainly people who were affected, black members, spoke up, and it was brushed off once again. The next day, it had been found that other creators had spoken up in favor of Taylor, saying that there were people who were overreacting and saying that Taylor was one of the good ones in the community. This was very disrespectful, and people were not happy about it when it was found out. Though this happens to be the biggest example of anti-blackness and racism in the object show community, such as people not wanting to learn or people not wanting to try and fix their mistakes, there have also been other minor incidents that have come by and passed us that didn't leave as big of an impact. However, no matter how small or big a situation may seem to be, it all has the same damaging effect, as it shows people that discrimination and anti-blackness towards black people or members of communities is okay, and it shows people, including other POC members, that their situations do not matter as much, and that if they're ever upset at being discriminated against, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to them, which is a problem, because that's not the case. The biggest factor here is how the people that discriminated against black people and were anti-black and racist had a platform. At least most of them did. This shows their fans that things like this are okay. Most of the people that were forgiving Taylor under his video mentioned the fact that they were young fans and also happened to be black or people of color themselves. It's disheartening to see things like this, because no matter whether it happens on the internet or in person, no person of color should be told that their situations don't matter, and that people being discriminatory towards them isn't a big deal. Now that I've gone over what today, Juneteenth, isn't about, the different types of things that have happened in the object show community over the past almost a year now, and the negative impacts that they've had, I want to take a moment to talk about how you can do your part and help uplift black voices, whether it be today or any day, in the object show community, in a different fandom space online, or even in person. Even though today is a black holiday, it's never too late to learn and educate yourself on black history, as well as how you can support your black friends or fans. Following all of these things that have happened in the object show community, there have been some great changes that came along the way. After March 25th, the next day on March 26th, in the Animated Inanimate Battle Discord server, there happened to be a call that lasted for about 2 hours where different black object show community members, as well as other non-black members, sat down and listened to black members talk about how these different situations that have happened not only impacted them, but also their opinions on how people can help change and make a big difference. It was a small moment in time where people decided to sit down, ask questions, and learn, as well as be educated about how harmful anti-blackness can be to different members of the community. As well as people being able to sit down, learn, and listen for a moment, there have also been other positive changes to the object show community following the initial issue that happened back in August. Not only did it encourage fans to step out and call out and shut down things like racism and anti-blackness, it also encouraged and brought people the bravery they needed to speak out about their own personal issues, like people who happen to be grooming others in the community or hurting people in a negative way and bringing them down. This goes to show that one person speaking out can give somebody else the courage they need to say how they feel about something that may be hurting them in a very impactful way. Speaking out against anti-blackness and racism has brought a new light to the object show community, that it's okay to step out and put your foot down towards injustices that may be happening to yourself or other members of said community. Along with bravery that speaking out against oppressors has brought to the community, there are also different ways that you can uplift and support black creators. Listening to what they have to say whenever they speak out against an issue that impacts them is one way to help uplift black voices. There is a difference between supporting and speaking over, as many people have come to learn. There's no problem with supporting black creators, however sometimes there is a line where you may be overstepping. It's always okay to ask questions and make sure that you're not crossing a line. Lastly, the only thing that black creators and fans may ask for is generally respect. Respect is something that everybody should deserve, no matter who they are, or where their background is, or what skin color they are. Disrespect towards the black community has always existed, and it's not something that will ever end anytime soon. But taking 1 second to think about how something you may say or do will impact somebody, whether it's your opinion on a racial issue that does not involve you, or whether it may be something that you may say about somebody that you may not think comes off as disrespectful, but definitely can be discriminatory, goes a long way. One sentiment that I have seen around the internet in general is that online activism doesn't do much compared to actual in-person activism. Though speaking out on an issue that impacts people like myself doesn't feel like activism to me, it will definitely feel like performative activism to other people. The misconception that comes out of that, though, is that the people who say this don't necessarily know what Black people or other minorities go through when it comes to facing racism and colorism. Those speaking out about anti-Blackness definitely won't change the world in a day. It may change the mind of one person, and it may help one new person learn something new and want to help the cause. This is why no matter how little you think support for the Black community may go, speaking up and showing support and being respectful always has a positive impact, no matter what you may think it does. The reason I wanted to make this video today, and not any other day, is because Juneteenth was so close when I decided to make a video like this. I didn't want it to be swept under the rug again, only for another issue to pop up later. Sadly, a trend I've noticed is that despite Black people, or in this case Black Object Show community members, speaking up about issues like these, most people don't tend to care unless it's a bigger creator or more popular person who doesn't happen to be Black speaking up against the issue. So I decided to make it where I chose an important day to post about this, to make sure that the word got around at least a little more than it usually would. Hopefully, this video can take a statement and stick around even after today, and make people think for a moment about how they treat others. I'm gonna leave a couple of resources that a friend of mine, who is also Black, helped me find, including different links where you can read about Juneteenth, Black History Month. One of the links that my friend found also includes a bunch of different Black fundraisers and charities or businesses that you could help support. I've also made a couple of Black Object Show community member support posts over the past few months, I guess over almost a year now. I'm going to be linking all of those so you can check out the different people that have commented under my post over the past few months and maybe support them a little bit too. If I had forgotten to say anything, I'm so sorry. I'd love to hear insight and also how people think of things like videos like these that are made to talk about important issues, and hopefully this can make somebody, just think. Treat others with kindness. Discrimination isn't cool. I'm definitely all over the place now, but I'll be leaving a few resources that I've found, as well as other community links that I find that are very important below, in the description of the video. I don't post to YouTube often, and this isn't a super high quality video, so I'm super sorry, but the quality wasn't really what was important to me. I just wanted to make this quick statement video. Thank you for listening and watching if you've gotten this far. I'm not sure when I'll post a video again. I'm not too much of a YouTuber, but I am active on my other social medias. If any questions are had, I'm always open to take them. Thank you. Have a good day. It's also Pride Month, so happy Pride Month. And specifically for today, happy Juneteenth.